Welcome back. With us right now is Bill Walsh from the Third Board, and I'd like to welcome you. Haven't seen you for a while.
Ken. That's right, Ken.
Great to have you here today. And you've got a few things that you want to go over, and we'll get down to the solar project last, but we're going to start with its fines for chargeable services or damage reimbursement, that sort of thing.
Right. On March 7th, we had our third Mutual Finance Committee meeting, and the accounting folks came in and told us that the Dynamics AX system had stopped sending out reminder notices to people who had been invoiced for fines or fees or reimbursable charges. And because a lot of people may not know, but the Finance Committee is one of the committees in Third that's called a meeting of the whole. That means that every director on the board, all 11 of us, are expected to attend.
Okay.
And so when the finance folks, the accounting folks brought this to our attention, we said, well, we need to send a reminder notice out.
Right.
And we said, you can't give late fees to people who haven't been notified. I don't know about anybody else in the community, but if I stick an invoice in a slot, I might forget about it. And so we just said, we're not going to, no late fees, but just remind people that they have an outstanding invoice.
Right.
And some of these were, over a year old. And of course, the response to that was last week, I guess, according to Brad Hudson, it was just a lot of people came in downstairs to settle this, or and some of them thought they had paid the invoice.
Right.
And so they, in the letter, they had given an information to get a hold of Ola. Let's see, what's her name? Ola. Let me see. I'll look at it down here. Olga. That's the word I want. Olga Torres at 597-4226 to call her if they had issues. So people weren't forced to come in. A lot of people did. I think they wanted to talk to a person in person, but. And some people were a little upset that this had gone on for it hadn't been notified for a year, and which is understandable. But in general, we're just doing our fiduciary responsibility as the Third Board to collect these fees. It costs us money in administrative fees to collect these fees. And I should also mention that right now a late fee is $10.
Okay.
But it's going to go up to $35 on May 1st. Okay. So if you've got any outstanding invoices that you need to pay to GRF, you need to need to bring them in.
Okay. All right. Very good. So the next one on the list is Southern California Edison time of use electricity rates coming up.
Right. What's happening in the energy department with electricity rates? People are using electricity differently than they did 20 years ago. And so what Edison has noticed is that there's a double spike in the electricity. It comes up in the morning when everybody's going to work and their office buildings are on, and then when people start leaving, it just kind of tapered off. Well, now when they get home, they've got all these electronic devices that they're turning on, including air conditioning or heating, and they're trying to figure out a way to level load that and encourage people to be a little more conscious of when they're using electricity. So they've gone before the California Public Utilities Commission, and they're now negotiating with the commission on doing time of use. Because we all have those smart meters now. They know when we're using electricity. And what it's going to eventually get to, which is probably next year or by the end of next year. So we may have anywhere from another 20 to 10 months to 20 months before this is implemented.
Okay.
It's going to cost us more money to more cost to buy electricity certain times of the day.
Right.
And so people are going to have to be aware of that. That when it goes to time of use, when they look at their electric bill now, this year, it went from 4 tiers to 3 tiers. And they're slowly eliminating the tier system to go to time of use. Okay. And so it's just a heads up to people that it's coming at us. Hopefully it won't be too onerous. Hopefully we've got some support, for we ratepayers, some support out there in the CPUC to kind of not make this too
Right.
too heavy of a charge.
You have to think of what are people going to do, because a lot of people, especially people who still work, that's when you come home, you know, like you said, you turn on your electronics. A lot of them are on throughout the day.
Right.
I mean, you know, my computer gets shut off maybe once a week. I may not be using it, but
Right.
it's going. You probably recall years ago, it used to be the afternoon.
Right.
I think you know, people using their washing machines and things like that, and they would encourage you to wait till after 5 or 6. Now
Right.
now it's like they're going back again.
That's right, and they have the knowledge too. You know, with it, you know, they've got the recording of that. So it's just a heads up. You've got to look at your energy bill, and when that changes over, hopefully they'll give us some notification.
Right.
And if they don't, one of us, Bert Moldow or I, or somebody from the board will come and let people know.
Right.
Because it does affect us too in the common area electricity for laundry rooms. If people start washing their clothes during high peak hours, we're going to pay a premium for the
Right.
electricity to do that. So, and we're an all electric community, with
That's
the exception
true.
of a few areas in the community. So.
Right, exactly. So now we're speaking of electricity. Actually, the next two topics tie into that. Streetlights.
Right. Little history. Southern California Edison initiated a program so cities could buy back their streetlights. And they did this about 2.5, 3 years ago. And about 60 cities signed up to have their electric light poles audited to see what Southern California Edison would charge for each pole for that city to purchase. These cities were very concerned that Edison wasn't replacing their high pressure sodium lights
Right.
with LED lights, which are a lot less expensive in terms of electricity. And Lancaster and Huntington Beach both now own their streetlights, as far as I know. But that program ended about a month before we applied at Third Mutual. We applied to buy those lights. And it took them until October of last year, so it was about 14 months before they came up with the audit and the numbers. And when they did, they said basically we would have to pay $340 for each of the 788 poles, which amounted to $263,000 rounded. Okay. And we had a year to make that decision. So we are 6 months into it, and we're now going to have to start looking at, are we going to do this? And the other reason that we're very concerned about it, and what prompted our whole movement to do this, was if you drive around here at night, you know how dark it is.
Right.
And when I drive around at night looking at different things, and I watch people walking on the sidewalks with flashlights.
Yeah.
They can't see.
Exactly.
And you know, we have a particular demographic in this community that doesn't have the best eyesight to begin with. And so we started saying, well, you know, we started asking Edison, can't you put LED lights and change the mushroom heads to arms so they kind of light up more the sidewalk and the street? And they wouldn't do it. And so when we applied for this, along with the audit, Edison actually came back and said, okay, we'll replace your streetlights with LEDs. So they gave us an option. But it's an expensive option because they've got to go through, it's not going to be cheap even for us if we decide to do it, to replace those lights with LED lights.
Right.
And you know, we're going to have a large discussion because, you know, if we buy these lights, we're buying a 50-year-old infrastructure. And we've got to make sure that before we do it, that the infrastructure is in good shape. And so we're not repairing both the wiring and, you know, taking over the poles. And one of the things that we'll probably do if we buy them, we'll leave them as is with the high pressure sodium, and then slowly over years replace, as they burn out, replace them with LED lighting. And we also want to put arms on a lot of these poles along major thoroughfares like Carrizo, Sotiega, Via Mariposa, and those where people are traveling at night pretty extensively.
So as far as, let's say you decide not to buy them,
right?
SCE will put in LED lights, am I correct?
That's right.
And have they given a cost for that yet?
They have, and would be if they replace the LED lights, it would be actually a major program. They would just come in and do it, but it would. They wouldn't be an upfront cost. What they would do is they would increase the tariff, if you can imagine. Now, here you're using less electricity with an LED light, okay, and the maintenance. You don't have to replace them as often. They've got a much longer life than high pressure sodium vapor, vapor sodium lights. And so the issue there was, okay, you're going to raise the tariff, and you're going to make us pay that tariff for 20 years to pay for this.
Okay.
Okay, and so we're looking at that and we're going, that doesn't look like a good option. So
So it's not as though they just came back and go, for this sum, we're going to replace all the heads on the lights or the bulbs or whatever it is, where you could easily see this is what it's going to cost us. When it's done, they're going to still maintain them. They're theirs.
Right.
They're looking at, well, no, we want to still be collecting our money over.
That's correct. Okay. And so the option that VMS staff looked at, they gave us 4 options. They said the one that we should probably look at is just purchase the lights as is. And it would reduce our electricity costs by half. We're right now, for the 788 lights, we're paying about $8,300 a month in electricity costs. If we bought them and we owned them, we would only have to pay about $4,000 for those lights, the electricity for those lights in a month. So that's a start.
For the same lights?
For the same lights.
Okay.
So basically, we cut our electricity costs in half. It doesn't do anything about correcting the lighting issue.
And does it cut that off because you're now not paying those extra fees to SCE?
That's right.
You're just paying, you still have to pay for your electricity.
Right, we're not paying a pole, tariff for the pole.
Basically a maintenance fee and all that
kind
of stuff.
But then, there's other issues too, that we've got to maintain them.
Right, exactly.
So this is going to be an ongoing discussion. And in fact, tomorrow, if anybody's interested, at 10 o'clock in this Sycamore room is the 3rd Mutual Energy Committee meeting. So we're going to talk about a lot of this. Okay.
Moving on to the solar project, right?
Yes. Good news and bad news on that. We've got 8 buildings have been given permission to operate. They're generating electricity when it's not foggy. I haven't got any numbers yet because I just asked for them and they said they probably have them in a week on how much electricity we actually generated. I just got an email on Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, that Edison on the 9th building had gone through technical review, and so it's just a matter of them getting the paperwork together to give us permission to operate. So we'll have 9 buildings. 3 of the buildings are in a situation, and it's unfortunate that it, in my mind, that it happened, but it's also a function of miscommunication or lack of communication between the installer and Solar Edison. And then that communication had to do with the capacity of the transformers that they were going to use to put the solar energy on 3 of those buildings.
On 3 of the buildings.
Right. We've gone through various machinations with both the installer and Southern California Edison, and it comes down to the fact that the cheapest thing for us to do at this point to get that energy onto the grid, this SCE grid, is to trench or to run cable to other transformers.
Okay.
We don't know the cost for that, and we're out to bid. We've got one company that's probably close to giving us a bid, and a couple of others that are due to give us bids. So hopefully, when we get those bids in, we'll know what the added cost of this is going to be.
So that means that 9 of the buildings, the transformers are there on the buildings?
They're in location, right.
Okay. Where these, for some reason, they can't be in a similar location.
Well, it's not so much that there are transformers there. That was the problem. But they don't have the capacity to handle the amount of electricity we're producing.
Okay.
Good question. I mean, I didn't make that clear. And so we could unplug some of the panels, I guess, to get it down, and that's not a really very good option. And Solar Optimum, the installer, said we would have to re-engineer this. We were thinking about putting it on, going from, I'm getting a little too much detail here, but a 480 transformer, a 480 volt kVA transformer, and putting it on the residential transformer. And they said the residential transformer can't handle it. So we spent a month going through all our various options, and it's basically come down to trenching and running cable.
Okay, all right, very good. So your energy meeting will be next week, right?
No, tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, excuse me. Yes, I see it here.
Right.
10 o'clock in the Sycamore room.
Good.
All right, very good.
Good, thanks,
Bill,
Ken.
Always good to see you.
Good to see you, Ken.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
And we'll be right back.